mention a few things as we start. We are going to be going through a complete overview of all the marketing available to you. Hey, Jane. And this is an interactive webinar. So if at any point during this webinar you have any questions, want to see anything again, or really dive in, please feel free to ask questions. I want to make sure that you get your questions answered. There is also no such thing as a silly question. So if you have the question, chances are very likely that someone else also has the question, and we want to make sure that you're getting your answered. My name's Kelsey. I'm going to be taking you through everything today, and this will be about an hour webinar. So we usually use the full time during this marketing overview. So without further ado, we're going to log in, and when you log into your IQ Office, you should see a screen that looks very similar to the screen that you see in front of you now. When you're working on your marketing content, know that most of what you're going to do is going to be on the left-hand side underneath that marketing screen. And what we're going to do is we're going to work our way down the options for you in this marketing tab. Before we go all the way into it, are any of you on the call today from our Canadian clients? Are any of you Canadians? If you can type yes or no in that chat box, it also really helps me out. Awesome. So Heather, the section I'm going to go over first is the postcard marketing. Right now, that is not currently available in Canada. We're working on a good solution for a printer and delivering through your mail system. So bear with me while I go through this for our clients in the States. Know that we're working on a solution for you in Canada. And once I have that solution, it will be announced via email to everyone. Okay, perfect. I just want to make sure, because I've done this and not asked that question, and then all of a sudden our Canadian team members are very, very confused about why they don't see this. So you can order postcards through your IQ Office. So actual hard mailers that go out either to your clients or to your sphere of influence or to a targeted address. When you go in and you click on My Orders here at the top, you can click on My Orders, and you're going to be taken to your main order dashboard. On your main order dashboard, you can see any of the orders that you have ordered in the past, as well as the status and the statistics of your order on the right-hand side. How many are pending, how many have been completed, and if any have been rejected as far as addresses, what those are. To start a new order, you're going to click the plus order button in the upper right-hand corner, and that is going to open up the main order screen. And in that main order screen, you're going to notice that this wizard looks very similar to the other wizards we see today. And the first thing you're going to do is choose your item. If you would like to narrow down the items that you can see, you can choose from this drop down. And I know that that's a little bit blurry, so I'm going to tell you what the choices are. There's an agent promotion choice, a buyer's neighborhood choice, a home value choice, just listed, just reduced, just sold, or an open house choice. I say, hey, I want to do a buyers for your neighborhood postcard. I can then choose from any of the selected postcards. So I could go in and I could say, hey, I want to do this gray, wow, I have buyers for your neighborhood postcard. And know that once I'm in here, anything that I highlight over, I can change. So I can change the images, I can change this text. I also can insert a property. So if I've just listed a home in a neighborhood, or I'm farming a neighborhood that maybe one of my coworkers or other agents in my office has listed something in there, I can use that listing. Hey, Lisa. Hey, Melanie. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to go in. I'm going to say, hey, I want to search for a property. So I can type in an MLS ID up here, and I can go in and I can select that property by using that checkbox. It will automatically insert the information about that property if it's available. Or I can simply scroll through the properties here, and I can say, hey, I would like to choose this Canyon Road property. Once I do that, it's going to quickly process and insert that information. It's going to put in the photo of the listing, and it's also going to put in the information and the photos at the bottom. Now again, if I want to change that photo and say, hey, I don't like this photo of the front of the house, I can click on it, and then there's a tab that says property. So I can actually go in and select images from the property from MLS. So I could say, hey, I want to use this photo. It's going to show me the proper crop size that will give me the best fit. Once I click save, it's going to automatically enter that photo in. And then I could say, hey, I want to change the text. Maybe I don't want buyers want your neighborhood, but say things are selling. Your neighbor's house just sold. Now, because I can go in and I can change that text, I want you to think about when you're choosing things, you can actually go in, and if you like the layout of a postcard, you can change all of this text. So don't get hung up when you're choosing your template about what the text says, because the text is something you can edit. Then I can go down, it's going to pull my profile picture and all of my information, as well as a little bit of a blurb. And then I can go ahead and I can click save and continue. That's going to take me to the next screen that talks about who I want to send it to. Do I want to send it to my outdoor loving clients or my sphere of influence clients? Do I want to upload a contact file? So if you've gotten a contact file from a title representative, or you've bought a list online, you can actually upload a contact file here and insert it that way. You also could have them delivered to your office. So you could go in and you could say, hey, I need to have 150 of these delivered to my office. If you're wondering about the pricing, next to the option that you choose will be the pricing per card that you order, as well as the order minimum. Below that, you can also do targeted. So because I chose an address, it's going to automatically add the address of the home on the MLS that I chose. And I can say, hey, I also want to send 150 of these to the closest homes next to this home that I sold. And then I can click save and continue. On that save and continue screen, I'm going to get a review of what I have ordered. So how many are coming to the office, how many are being targeted out, and what is my total order? And then I can go ahead and I can say, I'm ready to pay for these cards. Once you get to this payment screen, it's going to ask for your card information, so you can enter in all of your credit card information. It's going to show as back at you on your credit card, and you can submit your payment. Once you submit your payment, you're going to get an email proof into your inbox, and you're going to have to approve your postcard before it goes out. Once you click approve, it takes us about 48 hours to get them from the printer to the post office, and then it takes the post office about 5 business days to process. So you're looking at between 7 and 10 business days for your postcard order to be processed. Really easy though. Go in, you can say, hey, I'm ready. I want to edit this order. I can see what's happening with all my orders as well as what's completed. Once it is, the status will be pending until you approve it. Then it will go from pending to approved, and then it will go from approved to complete. So you will get a notification of every stage of your postcard if you would like. Again, to get to that screen, we went to marketing and we went to the My Orders section at the top. Any questions there before we go into print and e-marketing? Cool. So the next section we're going to go through is your saved content dashboard. So if you go into My Saved Content, and you can either do that under print marketing or underneath e-marketing, they're going to take you to the same dashboard. And this is where you can access any flyer or marketing piece that you've ever created. You can search for them by using this search filter here. You can say, hey, the name contains open house, search, and it would show all your open house content as you saved it. Now, you can change that name by when you create the content. So to add new content to your saved content or create a new piece, you're going to go to the plus add content in the upper right-hand corner. If you've never created a piece before, you're going to see this green button right here that says add new content. Whether you go to add content here or add content here, they're going to take you to the same place. And that is the creation wizard for creating a new marketing piece. And the first thing you're going to do is select a template. Glenda asked a question back on the marketing, on the postcard section that I want to address. It says, why does the system require that the address be input on the selection screen, even when you are sending to a targeted group? And I want to make sure I'm answering that question correctly. So, Glenda, you're talking about this screen? Yep. So if you put in a quantity here, it is going to require that you have an address. But if I put a 0 as the quantity there, I can then delete that address and get to the next screen. So if you have a quantity in that targeted box, it's going to make you put in an address. If you're not sending it to a targeted list or a targeted address, you're going to make that quantity 0, and it's not going to show up. Does that answer your question, Glenda? So Glenda's saying, hey, I chose my actual content, my contacts up here. I chose my seller, my outdoor lovers, and my sphere of influence, and my Giants football fans. I'm going to send it to those people. I don't want to send it to a quantity list. Does that answer your question, Jane? She's sending it to her people up here. And Suzanne, you can do either. So Suzanne asked, do I have to supply the targeted addresses, or does the system do it for me? So you can upload a contact file here. If I have a contact file from a title company or a list of addresses that I'm using that are not in my contact base, I can upload my own list of addresses. Or I can add a targeted list, and the system, we will buy the list for you based on the address that you put into this location box. So Glenda, my gut instinct says you don't have any addresses attached with the sphere of influence people that you've attached. And so if there are no addresses associated, it is going to make sure that your contacts have addresses before it'll go on. So Jane here, it's sending to the nearest home. So if I enter in 150 homes and I enter in a location, it's saying, hey, we're going to find the 150 closest homes to this address and send it to there. Or you can send it to your sphere of influence, or you can upload a list, or you can have them mailed to the file. We have our own system. So this is a system within your IQ office that we purchase the addresses to send to. It's not circular. Oh, a circular group of addresses. It's not circular. It actually goes in and it finds the closest 150 residential homes. So it's not by a mile radius. It's by the type of homes that are closest to this address. Geographically. Distance. You could say it draws a circle, but it doesn't necessarily say, hey, within that circle, we're including all the homes. It's a quantity of people in residential homes that are located as close to that as possible. So it's more like a radial star. Yes. You can't assume that it will go to the closest homes to the address that you put in. Glenda, I'm going to have you get with your office admin and find that out. That seems like something that's going on that's outside of my realm, and I don't want to get too stuck on that for this section. So Jane asked, does it pull addresses in the same neighborhood? It depends on how many homes are in that neighborhood. So if you put a number in here that's larger than the number of homes in that neighborhood, it's going to go outside that neighborhood to make sure you're getting your quantity of homes that you ask for. It goes down the street. So Glenda asked, why does the top section read upload a contact file? So that section, Glenda, is for if you've purchased a list or you've gotten a list from your title rep that you don't have uploaded into your IQ office, you can attach a separate file. Good questions, guys. CSV. You're going to want to upload that file in a CSV file. So if you have it in Excel, you'll go to Excel, save as, CSV, and it will upload. All righty. So the next section we're going to go back to then is this content for yourself that's digital that you can either print or you can email off and you can attach it to a campaign. We are going to go into how to create an email campaign. Best practice is to go in and create your content here first and then attach it to a campaign. And there's a couple reasons for that. The first reason for that is, one, you can save your content first at any time and not send it out. So what I've found is it always happens that in the middle of creating a campaign, I'm doing something and a client calls, and then I have to drop everything I'm doing to help my client and I have to start that campaign all over. Two, if I create the material first, I can attach it to multiple campaigns, or I can send it out or print it anytime that I want. So it's just a little bit easier. It makes more logical sense to create your content first and then to attach it to a marketing campaign. So again, to get there, we went to marketing, my saved content, either place, it's there underneath print or email. And then you're going to create content by clicking the plus content in the upper right-hand corner. Once you go in, there are a lot of templates in here, and there are several different types of content. So you can go in and you can choose from the realistic templates. You can also choose from your company templates. So many of you work for companies that have already created templates for you that you can use. So to get to your company templates, you're going to choose from content types, company templates. Once you've chosen the type of content, whether it's IQ templates or your company templates, there are categories on the right-hand side. Blank content, agent promotions, holiday cards, letters, property flyers, newsletters. So a lot of different content. To start, I just want to go through a few different types so you can see how they work. So if I'm choosing blank content, there are 5 different types of blank content I can send out. And if I select a type of content, I'm going to see that I can then edit it. So the first thing I want to point out is at the top, you have content name and a content category. So in order to organize your life down the road, it does make sense to name your content in a way that you can search on your home screen. So if you all remember when we were on this screen here, I went in and I said, hey, I want to search for something that contains open house. And then I clicked search and nothing came up. So in order to be able to make your content something that is searchable, you're going to want to change that content name right here at the top. So maybe this is an open house thank you letter. And I'm going to put in the category of letters in. And once I have my content name and my category name, I am going to edit my content. Again, to get there, I just clicked on the box below. You can see it highlight. And then I am going to add to the text. Now, what I want to just mention quickly is you'll see this box at the top of your screen that says add to text. This is really great for writing your own letters because you can have the system automatically insert information for you. So I can actually write in hello, and then on add to text, I can add my contact first name, the last name, the display name, and I can click select. When I do that, now when this letter goes out, it's going to say, hello, Celine, hello, Elizabeth, hello, Heather, hello, Pam, as it sends out to people individually. Does that part make sense? Cool. And then I'm going to write my letter. Thank you for stopping by my open house this weekend. If you would like to know more about the area or be signed up for a portal, please let me know. Again, thank you. So I can type my letter in there. Then I can add to my text. I can actually scroll down, and there's a section in here that says from agent email signature, and I can insert that in. What's nice about that is if you ever go in and update your signature, you're not having to go back through all your marketing pieces and updating all your signature because it's just automatically pulling from your profile your signature. Then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go down and I'm going to click OK. I can see a preview of my content here. And at the top, I have a couple options. I can save and get the HTML. I can save and print this letter. I can save and email this letter, or I can simply save it. If I save and print it, I need to make sure that my pop-up blocker is not on. When I click save and print, because I've got contact first name in there, it is going to ask me who I want to include. So I could actually go in and I can include specific content. So I could say, hey, I want to add these contacts, finish, finish. And then it's going to create that in the pop-up blocker. I can also add individual contacts there. If I save and email it, I'm going to go in and I'm going to type in their name and choose from the list. Once I'm done, I click send. I also can just save this content. So some things you need to think about as you're creating your content. We're going to go into a little bit of how to create action plans and how to create content campaigns. So if you're creating a campaign for your people who have visited your open house, you're going to go in and you're going to have an open house thank you letter. You might have an upcoming open house announcement. You might have a welcome to my portal email that goes out. What content do you want to include in that campaign? The other thing that you can have are called action plans. And action plans are a series of marketing events, including your personal follow-up, so calls, emails that you need to personally make, as well as automatic system emails and adding people to campaigns. So what content do you want to be included in those action plans? This is where you're going to create it first. There are several kinds of content that you can make in here. So blank content would be things like, hey, I'm going to upload my own custom letter to the system. You can go in and you can do a home anniversary event. So you might have a home sweet home event. I can see here, congratulations on your home. I'm going to call this home anniversary year 1. Year 1. And I just want the event name to be home anniversary cards. Again, I can then go in and I can say, hey, congratulations. I want to change that text to, can you believe it? And anything you highlight over is something you can change. I might say, I can't believe it's been a year. Cheers to many more. And I can click save. Again, at the top, I can save an email, save and get the HTML, or save it. If the content is not available for print, you will not see the save and print button. I'm going to save and email this out. I can send it then directly from here, type in my name, and click send. And then I can close it out. If you're doing a property flyer, it works very similarly to the way that we did the postcards. I do want to do one of those before we go on to campaigns, just to show you how that works. While I'm pulling that up, are there any questions so far? You can go ahead and type yes or no in that chat box. Perfect. Thanks, Celine. So I'm going to go in. I can see here are the on the market flyers. I can choose a different property flyer. So I could say, hey, I want a just listed flyer. And I'm going to use this just listed green. I can go in, and then at the top, I can see here, there's a select the property. And I'm going to scroll through the list and say, hey, I'm going to do this Elko Summit. And I can then see those pictures. Now, if I decide I don't like these photos, again, it works very similar to the way the postcard does. And I can change it. So I can say, hey, I don't like the front of this. I'm going to change that photo. I can go to the property tab at the top. and I can select a different image. It will crop it to the size that will fit best, and it will automatically insert. And it's also pulling all the information about the listing, the address, the price, the square footage, the description. I can go in, if I want to edit this description, I can do that. And then at the top again, save and get HTML, save and print, save an email, or just save. Once I've saved it, I can see it in my saved content. I can either scroll through all my content to find it, or I can search for contains just listed. And I'm going to choose by category. And now I can see here's that North Canyon Road or Elko Summit. I can go back in, I can email it, I can edit, or I can print it. Jane asked a really good question. Why would I want the HTML? Jane, I'm going to come back to that in a second. We're going to talk about it when we talk about the blog portion of your marketing, so that you can see what it looks like. But I am going to show you a circumstance in that you would want that. Cool. So the other thing you can do, now I've got all this saved content I've created. I've got all this content in here. How do I get it so that it will automatically go out to my clients? And how can I use it? So there's a couple ways you can use it. The first way you can use it is going in and creating a campaign. So I can go into my campaigns by going to marketing and then my campaigns. And when I open that up, I can see all of my campaigns here. I've got an all contact email campaign. I've got a buyer's campaign. I've got an event campaign, an investor campaign, a seller's campaign. You'll see a dashboard of everything. You can create a new campaign by clicking the plus new button in the upper right-hand corner. And when you do that, the first thing that you're going to want to do is to name your campaign. So it will always default to the current day and time as the name of the campaign. That's really confusing. I might say, this is my open house follow-up. Campaign. I'm going to then go in, I'm going to choose my first piece of content on this screen. So I'm going to go down, instead of choosing realistic templates, I'm going to choose from my content. And then I'm going to go to my letters category. And I can see here now that I've got this open house thank you. And when I do that, it's now going to take me into the editing of the content. So I can see it's automatically entered my content letter. I'm going to change the subject. This is often the thing that I see people forget to do the most, is to change the subject line of their email. It will automatically default to whatever you named your content. So if you named your content Open House Attendees 2019, that's what's going to be in the subject line. You want to change that subject first. So I'm going to change this to Great to Meet You. And then you can add a separate title. So it will automatically copy and paste your subject into the title if you don't want a separate title. But you can also name this Open House Letter 2019. What that does is it gives you an easier way to see on your main list of events dashboard, what's the title of this? Because often what we've found is subject lines for open rate are usually creative and something that doesn't tell you anything about the content. And as an agent, you need both. You need to be able to edit the subject line so that people will open it, but you also need to be able to go in and have a title so you know what the content is. Yeah, so Jane asked a really good question. Jane asked, is it going to overlay my old content by doing that? Or because I gave it a new title, it saves it as new content? The answer is neither. So it's going to give you at the end an option to, if you've changed the content, to override the old content. but changing this title does not change the title that you gave it in your marketing header. It only changes the title of the event. Does that make sense, Jane? So this is just giving the event in your campaign a title. The next thing I'm going to do is choose how I send this out. So you have several choices for how to send out content. You can send it out using a date. So I can say, hey, I want this to send on this specific date. At this specific time, it's active. You also can choose to send it out on a certain day, first of the month. So is this something you want to go out January 1st or February 1st or March 1st? So if you have a series of lists that you have created, like, hey, January 1st, it's your new year. Don't forget to do this and this and this and this and this. You could have those automatically send out on the first of the month. You also can use a holiday or a birthday. So you can go in and you could choose a birthday or a Father's Day, Thanksgiving, 4th of July. Heather, just so you know, if you're choosing Thanksgiving, it's using the Canadian holiday. And you're going to see a list in here that is a little bit different than what I see, because you're going to see Boxing Day and those holidays that you have there that we don't have here. Canada Day from that list. You can also say interval. So an interval campaign is awesome. You can actually say, hey, I want this to go out on the first day this person is added to the campaign, or the third day the person is added to the campaign. What's nice about that is if I have Heather, Lynn, Pam, and Suzanne, and I want them all on a campaign, but they've all been added at different times, but I have a series of letters that needs to go out in order. You can use an interval, have those letters go out in that order. So if I add Heather first, and then 3 days later I add Lynn, and then 5 days later I add Pam, and then 7 days later I add Suzanne, it doesn't matter because they're getting them in that interval order. Does that make sense to everyone? Cool. And then the last one on here we'll get to in a minute, but then you can say, hey, this is something that goes out on Mondays. So if you need like a weekly seller check-in letter that goes out, you could write a letter that was, hello, contact first name, going into the weekend, I just wanted to check in, see if you had anything that you needed from me. I also wanted to make sure that you knew that during the weekends, I'm only available during my cell. Find that in my signature below. Have a great day, la, 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 la. You could have that automatically send out every Friday on a seller type campaign. And then the last thing in there is the transaction date. So this you can actually say, hey, I want to send this after the transaction date, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 1 year, 2 years, up to 5 years after that transaction date. You can choose to have that send out. And I'm going to show you where to add that in a customer profile here in a hot minute. So for this, I'm going to choose interval. I'm going to have it go out on the first day after 9:30 a.m. And I'm going to click next. And then Jane, here's the other answer to that question. If I've made changes to the content, do I want to save the changes only for this event or for all circumstances of this content? You select one, click continue, and then you click finish. Now my campaign is created. I can see here in the list, here's my open house follow-up campaign. And if I click on it, I can open it up and I can see all of my events. Now, if I want to add another event to this campaign, I can do that. I'm going to click plus event. And let's say that this time I want to add my open or my home anniversary card. I'm going to choose my home anniversary year 1. I'm going to say, congrats It has been a busy year. I'm going to title it Home Year 1 Card. I'm going to send it using a transaction date after 1 year. I'm going to choose the time so it goes out at an actual human time and not at midnight. And then I'm going to click finish. I'm going to save it only for this instant, and I'm going to click continue. And now I can see here, I've got my open house letter 2019. It goes out on day 1, and I've got my year 1 card. It goes on transaction date plus 1 year. As I add recipients, they are going to get these based on those send days. So if the transaction date plus 1 year never happens, the recipient will never receive this 1 year anniversary card. The moment I put in a transaction date and it's been 1 year, then this card will trigger to go out. You can also mix and match all those send event dates. So if I go in and add another event, and maybe this time I want to send out a flyer about an open house I'm hosting this weekend. I'm going to go in, I'm going to choose from my content. I'm going to go and I'm going to choose this open house flyer. I'm going to say open house this weekend. And the title is going to be Croydon Court Open House December 8th. I'm going to send it using a date. I'm going to choose for this to go out on the 6th at 3:30 in the afternoon. Finish. So I can have a mixture. Some things on an interval, some things on a date, some things on a holiday. And I can really create a hybrid campaign that fits my contacts and reaches out to them in the way that I want them to be reached. If I add someone to this campaign and it is after this date of send on, they are not going to receive that card. Now, I created these events, but right now I don't have any recipients on this campaign. To add recipients, I can either go to the recipients tab here and add recipients, or I can go to recipients up in the upper right-hand corner and I can add them however I'd like. Best practice is to add them by contact type. So I can go in and I can add people by their contact type. I can say, hey, I want this to be my open house people, and I can click finish. Now I can see on the right-hand side the contact types that are included in this campaign. I can also see the records that are found for this campaign. On my main screen, I can see all the events, and as these send out, I'm going to get statistics on what's been sent, how many views it's gotten, how many clicks it's gotten. And if I go to actions, activity, I'll be able to see each individual person on that campaign, when the email was sent, and if they opened it. So campaigns are a great place to gather statistics for a campaign. Sure. So Jane says, I have a little bit of confusion over an event versus a campaign. So Jane, you have campaigns, and a campaign is like the title in a book, and the events are the chapters. So the events all fall underneath the header of the campaign, and they're individual events that go out. The campaign is how you categorize what's happening in and who gets that. So I attach a campaign to a client. So Jane, I could put you maybe in a contact type of referral agents. I could attach you to a campaign And in that campaign, it could have a series of events that are automatically emailed to you. Does that answer your question? Sure. So I do want to also point out, when I went in and I added recipients to this open house campaign, I did that by contact type for a reason. If I go back and I go into my contacts and I say, hey, I am going to I want to add Wendy Lopez, and I want to add her to this contact type. When I click save, it's going to ask, it's going to say, hey, the following campaigns are assigned to these contact types. Do you want to add this person to those campaigns? I can say yes, and then it's automatically going to attach her to those campaigns. Does that make sense? So when you're adding people to a campaign, you're going to do that by contact type, so that as you add people to a certain contact type, they are automatically attached to that campaign. Does that make sense to everyone? It also really helps when you're creating your campaigns to create them by contact type. So I can create a campaign that is for my Spanish speaking clients. I can create a campaign for my outdoor loving clients. I can create a campaign for my farm and ranch clients. My contact types, I can have as many contact types associated with a contact as I would like. So I might have a contact who is a Spanish speaking outdoor lover farm and ranch client. They're all three, and they might be on 3 campaigns from me where they're receiving specific information for each campaign. Suzanne, I think that answered your question. I want to make sure. And then I also want to make sure the thing that I said last makes sense to everyone. And Jane, I see your question. I'm going to come back to it in just a moment. So as we're on this contact page, I do want to just show you quickly, at the very bottom of this page, there's a section that says transactions. And this is where you're going to enter that last transaction date. You can type it in if you would like. And you also can insert the last transaction address for your records. So this transaction section is where, when I put in that home anniversary card, it is pulling that year plus 1, the transaction date plus 1 year. This is where it's pulling that from. As I scroll up, the birthday, it's pulling that birthday from. So those are the dates that are dynamic that it's pulling from the profile. Again, to look at a marketing campaign, you go to marketing and then my campaigns. And if I look at this open house follow-up campaigns, I can see the 3 events that I added. One is an open house letter that I'm sending out. One is an open house announcement about an open house that's coming up. And one is a 1-year anniversary card that would go out to someone on a transaction date plus 1 year. Does that answer your question, Jane? So Glenda asked a really good question. Is there a video for each of the marketing aspects you're discussing today in case we start to utilize one or more of these marketing tools? Can we go back to show step-by-step? The answer to that is yes. So there is a full YouTube library available to you. where you can go and you can see short videos on each section of your IQ office. I'm going to share that link real quick in the chat box. If you click on that link in the chat box, it is going to open in a separate window, so you won't lose the webinar. This session is also being recorded, and you will get a copy of this recording. All right, so the last couple things I want to go through, we're running a little bit short on time, so I do want to mention there is a section for surveys underneath your marketing where you can create surveys. There's also a section for blogs. Jane, you can use the HTML. Jane asked the question earlier, when you're creating content, why would you want the HTML? You can actually copy and paste the HTML for any content you create in your blog. That is going to take a little bit longer than the time we have allotted today, and I want to make sure we get to action plans. So I'm going to skip those sections. If you want more information, there is more information on surveys and blogs specifically in our YouTube channel, and I do a separate webinar on each of those sections individually. What I do want to talk about is underneath your tools and preferences, you have a section called My Action Plans. If you go to My Tools Preferences and you don't see My Action Plans, you need to talk to your office manager. That means they've this functionality they've turned off. But you can create your own action plans. And what an action plan is it's a series of events that you can attach to a contact or lead so that you know that information is automatically getting out to them and that your follow-ups that you need to do are automatically attaching. To create a new action plan, you're going to go to the plus new in the upper right-hand corner, and you're going to name your plan. So this plan might be my open house follow-up. And once I click save, I'm going to see an edit screen pop out from the right-hand side of the screen where I can add items. I can add an item like an automatic system email. And this is going to be my this might be my great to meet you. And the subject is going to be thanks for stopping by. And I want it to go out immediately. I want it to send maybe 30 minutes after I add someone to the plan, and I want it to send out from me, the owner of the contact. If I want to be copied on this, I can enter in my email, or I can blind copy myself on this. And then I'm going to search for the content on the right-hand side. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to search for content from my letters, open house thank you, send to the contact, save. So again, I added content. I said I wanted an automatic system email. I gave it a name. I gave it a subject. I chose when it sent out, who it sent from, who it sent to, and I attached my content. I can add then perhaps a follow-up request, and maybe this is a weekly text. Check-in weekly for first month of contact. I want that to be due 5 days after they're added to this action plan. And I want it to repeat every 7 days, 4 times, save. Susan asked a really good question. Would this react to anyone that's added from the open house sign-in that signs the open house roster through IQ? Suzanne, I'm going to come to your question. I see it. I want to go through a couple more types of actions you can add just quickly, and then I'm going to talk about how to do that. I also have 2 other options. So I can add them to a campaign. Again, this might be my open house follow-up campaign. And I want that to be done 2 days after. And I'm going to choose my open house follow-up campaign. And I can also send a survey. So if I've created an open house survey, I can actually say, this is my open house survey. And I want that to go out the day after they're added, maybe 10 minutes later. and I would choose my survey, and I would choose who it sends to and click save. So now I've got all these things. I've got a month of follow-up. They're getting email campaigns. They're getting a survey. I know I need to text them. How do I attach this to a person? Can I have it automatically attach? There are a couple answers for that. First, I can attach an action plan to an individual client by going in and opening up the contact. And if they're not assigned to an action plan, I'll get this blue bar at the top where I can assign an action plan. I can go in then, I can see, here's my open house follow-up action plan, and I can click save. That's how you can manually add someone to an action plan. You can choose a default action plan for all new leads that come in, but you can only choose one default action plan. So what I would recommend is, sure, just a sec, Jane. So what I would recommend is, if I were going to create, I would create 2 action plans. One action plan would have one event in it that was a follow-up request for me to add them to the right action plan. Does that make sense? So I'm going to go in, I'm going to go to Tools and Preferences, I'm going to create an action plan. It's going to be a contact action plan saying action plan assignment. I'm going to click save, and I'm going to say, this is a follow-up request, action plan needs assigned. It's due immediately. I need it to save. Now, I can set that as my default action plan. That way, when any lead from any lead source, my website, an open house sign-in, I get a notification on my home screen underneath my to-do gauge that I need to assign an action plan. I don't have to remember to do it. It's automatically going to notify me. To do that, I'm going to go to my name in the upper right-hand corner. I'm going to go to Profile. I'm going to go to Preferences. And about halfway down the screen, there's a section that says Default Action Plan. For my new lead action plan, I'm going to search, and I'm going to choose my action plan assignment plan. And now I click Save. Now, any lead that comes in, any lead at all that comes in, open house sign-in from my website, I am going to have it automatically attach that plan. Once I do that, anything that comes in, I'm going to get a notification here on my home screen. I'm immediately going to have an action that's due, and I'm going to be able to go in and I'm going to be able to say, I want to see that contact and add them to a plan. If I click View, I can go back and I would say, okay, underneath my Actions tab, I'm going to add them to an action plan. Okay, this one is a buyer that needs to be attached. This one is an open house that I need to attach. This is a paid online lead that I need to attach. I select the plan and click Save, and then it's automatically going to complete. That's a ton of information in a very short amount of time. Jane wants to see how to attach an action plan. I can go in, I open up the contact. If they don't have an action plan associated with them, I gotta find one that doesn't have an action plan. You will have a blue bar across the top. You click Assign and you choose the plan. If I want to set a default action plan for every lead that comes in, I do that under my name, my profile, underneath preferences, default action plans. Suzanne, did that answer your question? So Glenda asked, many of the action plans that you are discussing are generic. Do you have to set these up? Do you have these set up in a file that we can just select and modify? Glenda, there are several action plans that are defaulted in the system, but you can create your own action plans for yourself, customized to what you want and what you need. It does. There's some legwork in setting this up. The nice thing is once it's set up, it is an extremely useful tool. And going into the holiday season, typically after the next couple of weeks of December, it's relatively quiet. And that's a really good time to get yourself set up for the 2020 year. Your companies do have action plans in there that you can use. There are also a couple default action plans in there that you can use. If there are no other questions, we are over our time. I told you it would be at least 45 minutes. We're at an hour. We're just over an hour right now. This is being recorded. You will get a copy of the recording. Again, utilize that YouTube link that I shared with you to go in and look for, definitely look for specific videos on each of these pieces broken down. There's also a Facebook channel that you can go and join and ask questions for. I do make sure that we're getting those questions answered as timely as we can, same day answers typically, so that you can have, hey, I need to know how to do this. I will tag you in the video if you're part of that group so that you can join. You also can always find all of our trainings underneath our Zoho profile, and I'm going to share that link with you as well in the campaign. This is the challenge for you all now, is going in and at very least, setting up making one piece of content so that you can practice going in. You've made a flyer, you've set up a letter. Once you're comfortable with creating content, then you're going to create your first campaign. Once you're comfortable with your first campaign, then you can create your action plans. I know everyone on this call is at a little bit different user level. And that is part of the joy of this is the system can be used from a beginner to really an expert level. Glenda, yes, you're going to call your office administrator first. That's your first point of contact for if you need help. All right, if there's no other questions, I wish you all a very happy week. I hope you have a very busy and successful day, and I will talk to you soon. Yes, Jane, that's correct. That's where you go to log in. And that's for you. So anybody else that's looking at that and sees Jane's question, that only applies to her company. She knows who to reach out to. Glenda. You're going to ask your office admin first or your manager, and then if she doesn't know the answer, she knows the channels to make sure that you're getting answers. All righty, have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.